welcome to Straight Talk for Women Only. And tonight is an exciting night. I'm Judy.
I'm Janelle.
And I'm Mary.
And one of the reasons tonight it's so exciting, not only do we have an awesome speaker tonight, a great subject, but also today is Mary's birthday. Yay!
You got me.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mary.
I don't go that high.
Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. You got me good.
So-
Now ask me how old I am. I will get you later.
We want to ask how old you are, but we'll ask how are you doing on this wonderful day, and how do you feel about today being your birthday?
I feel extremely well. I am just so blessed. I would even tell you my age, how blessed I feel.
Okay.
I am 65 years old.
Woo!
God has kept me,
Amazing.
preserved me, and I just run around like I'm still in my 30s or 40s.
I know
because,
that's right.
When you're moving out in the things of God, just keep it going. Just keep it going. So I feel good in my sanctified soul.
Yeah, today I was trying to remember your age, and I actually had it right. But Chuck's, my husband, said, no, I think she's 62. And I kept saying, no, I said, maybe you're right. And then I said, no, Chuck, I don't. I think today she's
Right.
65.
Yeah.
And then when my daughter Gabe came home, she said, do you realize that Pastor Mary is 65 years old today? She said, Mom, look at her. She said, she doesn't have a wrinkle in her face. She looks fabulous. And so I'm looking in the mirror.
Oh, Lord, at the same time
She was talking. I don't have any makeup on, and I'm saying,
You don't have
I
none.
know, Gabe, like, look at me. I've got wrinkles right here. I said, and she has no wrinkles whatsoever. So,
I've never, ever looked my age all the years. Even when I turned 21 and I wasn't quite walking with the Lord, I wasn't saved at the time. And I wanted to go into they still would card me.
Really?
They would let me in.
Really?
I turned 21. I wanted to go into the bars now.
amazing.
But yeah, that was it. I've always looked, a lot younger all my life. I never looked my age. And then when I did turn 60 and I had a surprise party, Pastor Judy came and announced it to the whole church on Sunday. So I said, well, that's out.
The secret's out.
Yeah, so now it's 5 years later. So
And you look wonderful.
thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Don't you think, though, well, the Bible says that he renews our youth like
Yes,
the eagle,
I do. Yes.
and that the older you get in the Lord, and if you're taking care of
Yeah.
yourself, if you're exercising, if you're eating
Yeah,
healthy,
right.
if you're
Yeah.
doing the right things,
Oh,
that
yeah. You got to take
just-
care. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know
You look
about you,
better.
but I look at pictures of myself years ago, and I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I even think, oh my God, I look a little better today than I
Right,
looked
right.
then. So
Yeah, he keeps you. He'll give you wisdom on how to, to eat the right things, give you the grace to do so. Because he changed my whole eating habits years ago. And, he started, even giving me wisdom on what vitamins to take. So it was a move of the Spirit just to preserve me, So, and I had to do some things in the natural,
Right.
for him to continue to just keep me from all the aches and the pains.
That's awesome.
You know,
because of the call of God, too. I
I do.
think
I do.
have to take care of myself
Yeah.
because I have to finish the call of God.
Right, and that's why I always, saw myself, taking care of myself as far as eating right, doing my exercise, and because if the enemy can get you, especially if you're in any kind of, work or ministry or whatever, he's going to come after you in your body.
Yeah.
You all sick, you can't. That's one of the number one
Exactly.
things I want is the divine health. If you got that going on, then you can do some other things. But if you're always sick and you got this going on, that going on, that your focus is off.
Yep.
So that's
Exactly.
one of the things that I pray. God has been faithful to really, just give me that strength, and
He's
so I just keep it
preserving
going.
you. He's
Yeah.
preserving you.
Absolutely.
He's in
How
the-
many of you think she looks absolutely wonderful
Oh,
for
glory.
65?
Clap, 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 clap.
Amazing.
Now you're embarrassing me now.
Amazing.
All right, let's move on to the subject.
Well, we want you
praise
to know
God.
tonight that you can go to straighttalkforwomenonly.com. You do
Yes.
not have to go to GWWM.
Amen.
We have our own website now,
Woo-hoo, yes.
and it looks good. It looks really good, and you can go there. You can get to our shows very easily and see all of the archives and shows that we've done in the past. So it's just straighttalkforwomenonly.com.
Yes, yes. You
And-
can go. You can find us on Facebook through there, Twitter
Yes.
on there,
Amen.
everything. Email us, straighttalkforwomenonly.com. I'm excited about that
Amen.
because I only have to say one thing now.
Right.
Straighttalkforwomenonly.com.
You can watch all the archives. You can send in your questions, your
Yes.
comments, and pass the word. And it's easy to remember. StraightTalkForWomenOnly.com. Just
Yes.
tell your friends, and they'll go on it. And you'll never know. I've had so many people approach me on different things that they've watched, and they were just blessed on, some things. That, even the story that I told about, the rape thing.
Yes.
The girl came and told me that she was the first time opening up about it. She came and talked to me about it.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was her freedom. So
That's
you don't know your story, our story, everybody's story.
Exactly.
Free somebody else.
Yeah, it's
It
for
does.
somebody else, not for us. It's for somebody else.
And it's the reason you have the story in the first place,
Right.
is to set somebody else
Set
free.
somebody else
That's
free.
right.
God grace you to go through to get on the other side of it, to get the victory in it. It's not for yourself. It's for others, so that others can know that there is victory.
Yes.
There is something beyond what they experience. And
Yes.
if people
Exactly.
know it, then they want to hear what you got to say.
Yep.
Because you
Give
got
them
the
hope.
goods. You ain't gonna just talk a game and then you ain't got the goods.
Yep.
You got everybody's got a story.
Everybody's
Yes,
got one. I got
yes.
a phone call from a girlfriend of mine in New York that watched our relationship
Oh,
show, part
okay.
one. Cracking up on the phone. She loved it, though. She really sided with you. She told me I needed help. But anyway.
That's right. You got to.
What a
she
good
said, I don't
friend
want to
What a
work.
good friends for.
Right.
But I told her to email, because she has some really good information about it. So I told her to email it to us, and we would talk about
Oh,
it. She hasn't
yeah.
done it yet. But just to say that people are watching. They're
Yes.
watching.
Oh,
And they,
yeah.
they want a response. He's like, Janelle, don't say my name. I said, I'm not going to say your name. I'm not going to do any of that. But it was a good show. She loved it. She loved it.
Yeah, because it is. It makes a difference when people are just sharing and you're listening. You don't know whose life you're changing and touching and
Exactly.
who God
Or
is
who's
using
gone
you.
through that
Yeah.
and thought they were the only one.
Yeah, even with that story that Judy did last
Yes.
week on, my
Yes.
husband's gay. I mean, how many people, women, got free and delivered from, just knowing that,
Yep.
wasn't something they didn't do or did wrong,
Yeah.
and how to handle that situation. I thought it was really
And not feeling like it's
Yeah,
the end
like
of the world.
something, right.
This is it.
right.
That's
There's hope
good.
beyond any situation that you encounter. Because look at her now. You
Yep.
would never know it unless she told it.
And tonight's story is so amazing. And our guest this evening is our own Janelle.
Amen.
And-
Yay.
Yay! And we're going to hear her incredible story tonight of her mother who actually died of AIDS. And Janelle has written a book. It's called Ice Cream Kiss, A Mother's Drama, A Daughter's Journey, and it's going to be available for you for $15. You can write in and request it, and we will send it to you, or if you're in the audience tonight, you can sign up tonight to receive the book. But it's just an amazing story of what she went through as a young girl, because she, her story was when she was a child growing up. And so, thank you, Janelle, for sharing your story with us tonight and being willing to share your story with us. I remember it was a few years ago, I didn't even know that you had a book because you didn't go around publicizing I've written a book, and I'd known you for a while before someone told me that you'd written a book. And of course, because of my story of my husband having AIDS and dying of AIDS, and then when I read your book, I automatically felt such a kindred spirit because of the things that you had gone through. But we want you just to kind of share with us your just a little bit about your childhood and growing up, and when you were little, when you were a baby and little, where did you live? Like, were you living with your mother, because you're an only child?
Yeah,
right?
I'm an only child. And I lived with my mom, but we all lived with my grandparents. They were the foundation of our family. So it was my grandmother, my grandfather, my two aunts, my mother, and me. And that was my little home, my little space. So it was just us together. My childhood, from what I remember growing up, it was good. It wasn't, I don't remember any major issues going on. And probably because my grandparents were always there, like I said, they were the foundation of the family. So as long as they were there,
stability.
Yep.
Right.
As long as they were there, everything was good.
Fine.
Everything was
Grandma's
good.
going to make sure
And
Yeah.
but there came a time though when you moved out of your grandparents' home. And how old were you when that happened?
I think I was about 6 or 7 years old.
Okay.
And that was the first time my mother and I had moved on our own. And she had me young. She had me when she was 17. So we moved on our own, and that's when I began to become aware of just different emotions, feeling like this does not feel right. Feeling uncovered was the word I used, because I wasn't with my grandparents. They were home, and not being with them, and my mother wasn't abusive or anything like that, but just not being with my grandparents was kind of like, okay, what's going to happen? What's really going to go on here? So when we moved on our own, I used to call back home crying, telling my grandma, Mom, I want to come home, and of course it was nothing they could do because I was with my mother.
Right.
But it was just a really weird emotion.
Did your mother know that you felt that way?
She did. At one point, she was not happy about it because I think for her, it brought a form of rejection to her.
Okay.
Because I wanted to be with my grandparents over being with her. But it was because they were always there. They were always there. Like I said, my mother was young, so she was living her life. She worked, she took care of me, she provided what I needed, but she was living her life. She was doing her own thing, trying to find herself, exactly. So being with my grandparents was always the solid point.
Stability.
The stability for me.
And so I want to we're going to go back, but I want to go a little bit further to when you actually wrote the book, because your mother's life was a quest for finding somebody to love her.
Yes.
And finding a man, that right man that was going to bring that happiness into her life. Tell us how you wrote the book.
Well, the book actually, I started writing it just as a story because I didn't want my mother's life to disappear. I felt like, okay, she was here, and now she's not, and it's just like she's going to just disappear. My children won't know her, their children won't know her, she's just gone. And one day, I got overwhelmed with this feeling of loneliness. Now I'm married, have children, and I felt lonely.
Right.
I didn't know where it came from. I just felt lonely, and that's when I started to write her story. And as I began to write it, I realized that feeling of loneliness that I was experiencing in a safe place, in a safe haven, because I was married with children, was the same thing she experienced, but as a single woman in a religious environment that offered no hope for her to be remarried, because she was once previous married before she was saved. And then she became born again, and they were like, well, you can't ever get married again.
Oh, okay.
So what was she to do? What was she to do? So that's, as I began to write her story, God gave me the open mind to see
And the
understanding that she wasn't a bad woman.
Right.
She wasn't just a promiscuous woman. She was lonely, and she wanted somebody to love her. And that's what was driving her decisions and driving her actions, that loneliness.
And your biological father, when was the last time you had seen your biological father?
During that time?
No, when you were a child, like when you lived with your grandparents
Right.
and moved out, like in that period of time.
I saw him At 2, 2 years old, till I was 2, he was around. I saw him once again at 9 years old. We wrote a letter to each other when I was 13 years old that I still have till this day. And then it was about 20 years later that I found him. And my husband and I drove to where he lived, and we met, and it was a great meeting. It was a great meeting. For me, it felt like a part of me was coming alive that I didn't even know was dead. You know, it was like flesh being put on bones that I didn't even know was missing. You know, so it was good. It was really good, and it was good because I didn't need a father at that time. Wasn't looking for him to get something from him. I just wanted to know who he was.
So you were just free to just receive
wherever he was in his life, whatever he emotionally, whatever he could give emotionally or conversationally, and whatever he couldn't give was fine with me. It was fine with me because I just wanted to meet him.
So
go ahead.
So let's go back. You moved out with your mom, and you're feeling insecure, and then who was the first man that your mother brought, or that was in the relationship?
My stepfather. His name is Smitty in the book. Loved him because he loved me so innocently.
And was he married to your mom?
No, he was not. But he just, I don't know, I felt safe with him. I felt the love from him like little girls should feel. A love that doesn't require anything from you,
so unconditional.
Unconditional. He just,
type of love.
he took
good
me
to you, nice to you.
Took me everywhere with him. Never felt rejected. Never, never felt anything negative. There was nothing.
It's amazing.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's amazing because as you're saying that, makes me kind of realize that it was just the love of God reaching out to you through Smitty.
Yeah.
Because you needed to have that. Because you wasn't getting it. You got it, of course, from your grandparents, but to have that father type of love and whatnot. But your mother was, 32, right? If I recall.
When she died.
Young woman. And you was...
I was 17 when she died.
Young girl, yeah.
So how long was Smitty around, though? And how?
He was around for about 4 years. Something happened. I don't know why.
He had to go to.
Yeah, he moved away. Yeah, he had to go.
He had to go. That's not the one. That was
not
number
the
2.
one. I don't even know. He was number 1. He was number one
that you knew about.
That
right?
I knew about.
Right.
Yeah.
Except for your biological father.
Except for my biological
so that's
father.
number 2.
That was number 2.
Okay.
And he moved away. He moved away, out of state.
Right.
And
so that must have really another traumatizing
sure, that was
point in your life. Someone who loved you unconditionally and you bonded with them. Now he's gone. How did you feel? What was
and he
going
lived with you and your mother?
Yeah.
He was,
right.
Okay.
So now you're going through this.
Now I'm back to, I want to go home. I want to go home. I want to be, yeah, because I don't know. There was just a lot of in and out. There was a lot of in and out. And I think what it did, when he left, it kind of, I don't know if it taught me how to deal with the temporary relationships. I don't know if it taught me that nothing is permanent. I think it may have taught me.
Did you feel like sometimes, like if you was getting close to someone, that you was afraid that they would leave?
No, as far as with people that my mother.
Yeah.
No, I think I began to develop that relationships are for as long as they are.
Oh, okay.
And when they aren't anymore, they aren't.
So you were, in other words, you were ready to handle that and prepared yourself to just let it go.
Yeah.
You wasn't going to let it hurt you.
Yeah.
How old were you when he left?
When he left, I was,
It'll disappoint you, should I say. Yeah.
Maybe about 9 years old. Maybe 9 or 10.
Okay.
Something like that.
And did you have contact with him after he left? Wow.
I didn't. He, you know, because my only contact with him would be through my mother. So I don't recall having much contact with him. Eventually, he did come back when I was about 13 or 14 years old.
Right.
And they tried to reconcile their relationship, but by that time, my mother had become born again, and you know, he was not. So there was a conflict there, but there was still a relationship there, because that was part of her compromise.
Right.
He came back. She thought they would get married. She compromised her faith and her belief, and thinking he would convert, you know, and become born again. That didn't happen. So the relationship dissolved. It dissolved.
So during the time period, though, that you lived with your mom, there were different relationships.
There were. All of them were not brought in front of me. I do remember maybe people picking her up to take her, but it wasn't like I was there in the relationship. I did not spend time with, you know, these people or anything like that, but I just knew that she was a young woman. She was a beautiful woman. And this was her life, you know. She worked, she paid her bills, she went out, you know, and
looking for Mr. Right.
Looking for Mr. Right.
That love. And meanwhile, I think you said something earlier that was really interesting. You know, you said you don't necessarily have to have that well, it's not an entitled, but it's in the relationship dealing with the mother to daughter.
Mother to daughter.
Parents.
Titles don't make relationships.
Right.
Fellowship does.
Right.
Because there are a lot of women who have mothers and they have no relationships with their mother. You know,
and that's what was happening with you.
Yeah, that's exactly.
So, had you ever? So you never really ever, before your mother went on to be with the Lord, you never really ever had a relationship, or was it a space of time that you wound up having maybe a relationship before she left the earth?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There was throughout my adolescence, throughout my teenage years, there were times that, of course, we were together.
Sure.
And we had conversation and we did things. We went to theater, we went shopping, we went out to eat. We did stuff like that. But getting like down into the depths of a conversation or relationship, that we didn't have that.
Right.
Right before she passed away was when our relationship, I think, was getting ready to blossom. And, you know, it didn't get a chance to. It didn't get a chance to. And as I was writing the book, I found how important it is for daughters to be able to have relationships with their mothers, have the most open, the best relationship you can while they're here. You gotta have it. You have to have it, because once they're gone, they're gone. Either way, and you don't get the answers to your questions, and you don't get, you know, you don't get to have a daughter. Eventually, is going to come to a point where she wants to have an adult relationship with her mother, where her mother sees her as an adult, and they have these adult conversations, not
open up.
Open conversations, not chastisement, not rules, not this, but just, Mom, this is how I feel, and you can say, okay, well, honey, I understand, but this is how I see it, but there's no animosity, you know, going on.
There's not that struggle.
Exactly. There's just a conversation.
It's amazing because, believe it or not, there are a lot of, I've seen it a lot, where a lot of women, after they become adult, from the childhood to the adult young lady, and they just have such a conflict with their mothers. I mean, I just started seeing it. It was like, is this normal? You know, I'm like thinking, what in the world is this? Because they just have this, they can't get along, they're bickering, arguing, back and forth, and to the daughter almost feels like, you know, she finally gets out on her own, has her own family, children and whatnot, and they still arguing because the mother's still trying to be the mother, like you said, with the rules and the regulations, and then she's like, I'm a grown up now, I'm an adult, and I ain't got to take that, so they just, and I see it quite often, and you know, because I never had that grow up thing with the parent, but I saw it so much. I was thinking, is this normal for women and mothers to constantly bicker like this, or?
Where the enemy is involved, it is normal. because the enemy is stealing in that mother-daughter relationship.
Okay.
So in the world, in society, it'll be like that's just the way it is. But that's not the way it's supposed to be, because mothers teach their daughters how to love. They teach their daughters how to deal with conflict. They teach them how to become the women that they're going to be.
Right.
And a lot of times, mothers don't present themselves as people, as women.
Okay.
They present this, and daughters help, this perfect, flawless image. Like we were talking earlier, mom's going to fix it. Mom knows what to do.
Right.
Mom, you know, and mom always comes in and saves the day to rescue, but the daughter doesn't see mom when she's crying. She doesn't see mom when she's hurt. She doesn't see mom when she was rejected, and she doesn't know any of those stories.
So mom needs to open up.
Mom needs to open up. Mom needs to.
That's really
honey, I know how you feel.
Yeah.
I've been there. Let me tell you about. And then it's like, well, that's perfectly, you know. And I'm just going to give a brief little thing. Just what you said. I had a situation. The mother, I knew the mother very well, and I knew the daughter, and the mother was just exasperated with her daughter, all the trouble she was getting into. And so she called me up and she says, would you please, she's down at the police station, would you just go pick her? I can't take it. I'm like, okay. So I went to the police station and I picked her. She must have been about 15, 16, maybe 15, I think. So she's got her head down. She's all ashamed. So I go pick her up, and I told the police people, mom sent me, and she had her taken care of. So anyway, we got in the car, so we're getting ready to drive, and I said, she's still like, real quiet. I said, I said, girl, I know how you feel. Been there, did that. I said, yep, you got caught shoplifting, huh? I said, yep. Now you ashamed. Yeah, I know how that feels. I've been there. I shoplifting. I got caught. I was so. So I was going into my little story.
Yeah.
And she looked up.
Right. Because she would have never thought
you. Right.
Yeah.
And so she said,
you were relating to her.
Right. I said, yeah, girl. So I said, let me just ask you a question. I said, because after I let it out, now I figured she's going to open up, which God was just kind of leading me. And I said, what do you really want? What is it, if you had God can just do something for you right now, as you're growing up, and what is it that you really want? She says, all I want is to be married, to have children. I want the apple pie and the white picket fence type thing.
Wow.
I said, really? She said, that's all I ever wanted.
Wow.
I said, you know what? I believe that God's going to bless you with that, and I'm going to pray with you.
Wow.
Pray with her. Today she has her children. She has her husband. And she's.
Does she still open up to you?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely.
That's what we have to do.
And that's what you're saying, and that's what came back to my remembrance, because if I hadn't opened up to her, I would have just been like maybe a mom's friend,
What are you doing?
Yeah.
How could you?
Yeah, and really, this is a whole new thought, I think, to motherhood.
Right.
To think that you show your vulnerable side to your kids, or show your kids, I did it.
They think they're going to be disrespect you, or not like you, or look like at you as less.
And that's
no,
it.
That's
the
not
fear
the case.
of rejection.
That's the enemy.
Yeah, that's the enemy. That's how he steals.
Yeah.
We as mothers, it's almost like our children, they repeat what we do. So we have this foreknowledge already of like, okay, I know what you're thinking right now. And I know why you're doing what you're doing, but we never say, this is what I did.
Right.
Yeah.
We say, oh yeah, I know what that is, but we don't say, I did that. I got caught in the back seat. I got caught shoplifting.
Right.
We don't say that.
You don't
So the children think,
you don't understand.
You don't
How
understand.
would you know? I mean, after all, because
Exactly.
you're looking at this Mr. Perfect Mom.
Yep.
Miss Perfect
Mom.
And so you thinking they never done nothing, they never fell, they never made mistakes, and how would they know? Like,
Right.
how they
And
do
we
that
let
thing.
them
I
believe
can't
it.
talk to my mom because my mom would never
Right.
understand.
She
never
wouldn't understand.
right.
There you go.
Yeah.
But when you open up, then she understands.
She understands.
Because she experienced that, so she knows how it feels.
That's really a good, I mean, just that message right there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gaining something from it because I've really never looked at it like that, as to sharing with your kid. Well, I guess I've done it on and off and said, well, yeah, I did this or I did that, but
She never did nothing. That's my friend.
you You don't know me.
You don't know me. You're right. I understand.
It reminds me of one of my kids. I was really getting on to her about. She got an F in music, and I was like, "How the
music, of all
heck can
things,
you
right?
get an F in music?"
Well, Mom, you don't.
And then
say.
I went to Memphis, and my mother had passed away, and my
Right.
brother and I were going through things at my mother's house, and I found a report card of mine, and I had an F in music.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
So I came home and I said to her, "Oh my, I'm sorry. I had an F in music when I was your age."
Right.
She still brings that up with
Oh,
me.
that's
I had
funny.
the music. Well, already our time has come to a close, and
Wow.
it feels like that we've just got started
I know.
talking about Janelle's story, and thank God we have a whole nother show that we're going to do.
Amen.
But we just want to encourage you to get her book because she tells it all in her book, Ice Cream Kiss. And guess what? Next show, we're going to find out what that means, what that ice cream kiss means. A mother's drama, a daughter's journey. And you can get this for $15. Just email us, let us know that you want it, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at STFWO, or just go to our website at straighttalkforwomenonly.com and you can find it all.
Yes.
Amen.
Thank you for joining us.
You
Straight
are-
Talk for Women Only.
Yay.